Hey everybody, it's Brad at Deere Brothers LLC out in Versailles, Ohio. Gonna do something a little different today, something I've been wanting to do. I'm gonna compare two different brands, but they're similar tractors. So what we're gonna do today is I've got a Kubota BX23S tractor loader backhoe, and I've got a John Deere 1025R tractor loader backhoe. And I wanna go around, talk about some of the features that I like about each one, point out some of their differences. We sell a lot of these compact backhoe tractors, so I get a lot of questions all the time. Well, what brand's better? What do you like about this brand more than that brand? So I thought it'd be good when I had two competitor tractors here at the same time to try to do a video like this that I could show customers and just give some educational stuff. And some of this will be opinion based. Obviously, I'm not affiliated with either brand. We're a used equipment dealer. We sell all of them. These are probably the two most popular brands as far as I'm concerned with compact tractors and what we sell the most of. So I'll kind of walk around, talk about stuff that I like on each one of them, point out some of their differences. And if you have any questions, comment down below. I'll try to answer anything like that. If you aren't already, please subscribe to the channel, like the video. It helps other customers find our videos. We put up videos on all of our machines as they come in, and we put them up for sale. First thing that's kind of one of the big differences between John Deere and the Kubotas on their compacts are the hydro pedals. Both of these tractors are hydrostats. I really like John Deere's two-pedal system. That's something that I think is better on the Deeres than the Kubotas. Personally, I have big feet, and it just is a lot easier for me to use the John Deere two-pedal system, whereas the Kubota uses this more rocker style where the forward's up here and the reverse is back here. On some of their series, on their Hydro Plus transmissions, it's one pedal, and that's a pretty nice system, but they don't offer it on these subcompact tractors. So that is definitely something I like more on the Deeres. Heights, as far as your lifting on your loaders, if you looked at the thumbnail, the Kubota actually has a little bit more when it's level with the ground, just a little bit more lift height. But the John Deere, according to both of their specs, lifts a little more weight. So John Deere on this H120 front loader, they say will lift 836 pounds to full height, whereas the Kubota LA340 loader, those are, let's see, 739 pounds to full height. So the John Deere has a little more lift capacity as far as weight goes. The Kubota lifts a little higher. I do think, in my opinion, that the Kubota has a little bit faster of loader controls, and you can actually do two functions at once pretty easily. It seems like with the Deeres, they kind of only want to do one function well, so it's harder to lift and curl at the same time. It'll do it, but it's just a little slower than I think the Kubotas are. And that's something I do like more on the Kubotas. The seats, they both have really pretty comfortable seats. On these series, they put armrests on it. I know that sounds a little petty, but that is something that I kind of like that they both do. I will say I do think the Kubota seat is a little easier to flip around. It has this big lever for flipping it around to swing it for the backhoe style, or the backhoe side rather, whereas the John Deere has a smaller lever, and sometimes honestly they get just a little bit stuck. They're a little harder to grab sometimes. The John Deere does have, in my opinion, more leg room. Like I said, I'm a little tall, I've got big feet. It's a little easier for me to fit my boots here on these John Deere platforms when I'm sitting. I've got a little more leg room than I do on the Kubotas. That's one thing that's nice for me. Somebody who's a little shorter, that probably doesn't matter. I think part of it is because the Kubota fender comes out a little farther over this platform than the John Deeres do. I will say this much though, the Kubota is easier to get on and off when the seat is flipped to operate the backhoe. As you can see, Kubota angles their ROPS, so it's a little wider, whereas the Deere is kind of more just a straight up and down ROPS, so it is easier getting on and off the Kubota, in my opinion, just for that space there. Both of their controls are very similar. I think they're both positioned in about the same position. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. I will say on the backhoe side, John Deere does anyways rate theirs a little stronger than Kubota. So John Deere's on this 260B backhoe attachment, they call the bucket breakout force 2,036 pounds. And Kubota's on the BT603, they call the bucket 1,936. So they do say the Deere has a little stronger breakout force. I don't think one is faster than the other, honestly. I think they're pretty comparable as far as speeds go. I didn't notice a big difference there. On the Stick force, they're both pretty similar. The Kubotas are 1,171 foot-pounds of breakout force, and Deere is 1,187. So not a very big difference there, pretty minimal. Another thing that I do give a little bit of an edge to on the Kubotas is battery replacement, how to replace a battery. This sounds kind of silly, and you don't have to do it often, but Kubota puts their battery right back here. It's easy to take on and off. This little thing comes off. The battery's very accessible. On the John Deeres, they're up here under the hood, and it's a very tight squeeze. Honestly, the best solution I've seen some guys, they take one of the lights out and it'll fit out of here with one of the lights off. I've seen other guys that you basically almost have to take this whole shield off. It's a lot more work to swap the battery on this Deere, in my opinion, than it is on the Kubota. It's just a lot more snug up here in the front than it is over here on the Kubota, where you can take this entire shield off very easily, and basically the battery just pops right out. As far as the hoods go, both hoods open very simply. The Deere has a little latch right up here in the front. The Kubota has a little latch right here that just pops up and pulls towards you. The Kubota does have, this is adjustable on these. You can open it up. Basically your grill guard is adjustable on the Kubotas, and it's fixed on the John Deeres. Both of them have very similar, once you've got the hood open, very, very similar to how much room you have in there to be able to work and get into things. Not a big advantage to one or the other, in my opinion there. I think your heights of your ROPs are very similar. I don't know that one's better than the other there. The Deere kind of angles back just a little bit, whereas the Kubota's is more of just a straight up and down, but it is wider, like I pointed out earlier. One thing I do like about the Kubotas, so these smaller tractors, because they're such small engines, they've got to get higher RPMs to get the hydraulic pump engaged, and Kubota has started putting marks on there. So they really want you to get them up to around 2,000 RPMs before you start using the loader and the backhoe. Deere doesn't really mark that, and to my knowledge I don't think any other brand does, but it's really kind of important, because when you turn these tractors on, if you have them at an idle, the small pump just doesn't have enough power without the RPMs of the engine to give it power to really do any of the functions. I mean, the loaders are really slow, the backhoes are really slow until you rev them up to that 2,025 RPMs. Not that that's a big deal. Obviously, everybody knows you got to rev it up to make it work. I just think it's a nice feature that Kubota put on there. Hey, you've got to get it up to this RPM. That's its working RPMs, kind of like they have done for years with tractors for your PTOs. They always put a little hash on them. They've done that for a long time. All the brands have your PTO working RPMs. Other than that, there's not a lot of huge differences. You know, John Deere does come with their John Deere style coupler. Kubota, you can get it pin on or skid steer mount quick coupler. No, Kubota doesn't really make their own style quick coupler anymore. I think that's most of the differences, really. As you're probably well aware, the Deeres, typically new, cost a little more than the Kubotas. On the used side, they're usually pretty similar. Sometimes the Kubotas are maybe still just a touch cheaper. Maybe, in my opinion, represent a little bit more of a bargain. But you do get a little less lift capacity on the loader and a little bit less breakout force on your backhoe. So that has to be weighed in. But like I said, in my opinion, the Kubota has faster hydraulics, especially on the loader side. All right, if you guys have any other questions or anything you want me to talk about, comment down below. I'll be happy to try to answer any questions. Maybe in the future, when I've got more similar models, I'll try to do some more of these kind of side-by-side comparisons. Thank you.